Hi, everybody. Dugroz here with Dugroz Nostalgia. You're watching part 2 of the breakdown of my family's summer vacation to Europe. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, you'll want to go back and do that. Otherwise, this won't make nearly as much sense. Got it? Okay, let's go ahead and dive in. So when we left off, we had rented a car at the Manchester, United Kingdom airport, and we're planning on driving to Wales for a 4-day stay. I got kind of excited that I was able to fit all 4 of our suitcases in the back. We just did carry-ons. We didn't do any checked baggage. What the folks in the United Kingdom call a mid-sized SUV, I would call more like a hatchback. Different standards. But yeah, anyhow, we hopped in the car. We started driving to Wales. When we were most of the way there, we had this viewpoint. Oh, look at that. The views were pretty amazing. Then we pull up to the property that we were staying at. And here's what it looks like, the rental car from the outside, as well as the property. You can see a mountain in the background, and you're going to get a lot of views of this place. Here it is from up on the hilltop next to it. Ooh, just look at that view. That is amazing. So this is the building that we stayed in right here. It's called The Barn at Geshi Nushi. That's my best pronunciation. Now, throughout this video, I'm going to try my hand at Welsh pronunciations, and I apologize. I don't speak any Welsh whatsoever, so I will probably get a lot of it wrong. Sorry about that, but I'll go ahead and try. Here's a picture of the sign. It looks like jelly nude to us in English, but again, I think it's pronounced Geshi Nushi or something along those lines. If you look out the backyard, that's the view you get, kind of a mountain in the background, not gigantic mountains, but medium-sized mountains. And here's another view from the deck. Every time I see this, I just think about how lovely it was. Here's the whole property from a slightly different angle at a slightly different time of day. And here it is from the backyard. So if I go back a little and show you the wide view and just explain it, this actually has 3 different lodgings. Over here, this is called the house. This is just an outbuilding that's not something you can rent. This is where we stayed, the barn, and then there's a bothy or bati, I think it's called, which is sort of like a garage that's been turned into a house kind of thing. This is just a maintenance building. But yeah, that's the whole property. So one property, 3 different cottages that you can rent. I got that through cottages.com, which has an affiliation with Wyndham. I used Wyndham points. Again, this is not the channel where I break down how we paid for it. That's over on my main channel, Dugroz Reports. I don't have enough subscribers to get donations on this channel, but if you want to support me, I will have a link in the description box for my tip jar. It's called Tip Top Jar, and you can just make a donation to support this kind of video if you'd want, and I would sure appreciate it. So continuing on then, here's the inside of Geshi Nui, and there's the living room. This was an entire house. Here is one of the bedrooms. I'm pretty sure that's the upstairs bedroom. It did have a laundry machine, a washer, no dryer. You had to line dry the items. And there's the kitchen and the dining area. Here we have a picture of a giant walk-in shower it had in the master bedroom. And one more time, let's check out the view out the back window. You can actually see there was a thing, it's going to get blurry when I zoom in. It kind of looked like a fortress or an old castle that we could see off in the distance about 1.25 miles away. It turned out to be a mill that was built in like the late 1800s or very early 1900s. Didn't last very long. It was only in service for 7-8 years. Yeah, they were trying to use coal to power a mill of some kind. It was cool looking, but didn't last long as a business. This was on a working sheep farm, so there actually were sheep, baba sheep right there. They didn't want you interacting with them. They were on the other side of the fence, although you could walk through the pasture, and I'll show you that in a little bit. So after the night we checked in, went to sleep, got a good night of sleep. The next morning we woke up. We drove to the north, and there's a town called Conwy. That's how I believe it's pronounced. And that's where you will find the home of the excuse me. That's where you'll find the home of the smallest house in Great Britain, right there. So in the background, you see kind of the city wall. It's just this right here, the red and the little bit of stone next to it. That's it. That's the entire house. So I think we had to pay £5 for the entire family to go in. And that's what the first floor looks like, where I'm standing and 4 family members. You can basically turn around, and that's about it. I kept thinking there'd be a curtain and we go in further. Nope, that's the whole thing. And then there's kind of like a staircase that's more like a ladder that goes up to the second floor. And there is like a single twin size bed. What blew us out of the water is different people have lived there at different points in time. But at one point, there was an actual family with children. Yes, plural children that lived there. Isn't that nuts? Nearby, there was a public bathroom that had the pull the chain to flush. Don't get a lot of those in America. So that kind of fascinated me. And here's driving around the town of Conwy. Off in the distance, you'll see a castle. That's the Conwy Castle, which we do actually tour a little later, but not on this first day. And then we drove to a nearby town that's out on a peninsula with a big rock called the Great Orme. And the name of the town is something like Llandudno, although I think it's actually pronounced Llandudno or something like that. So I called it the Llandudno Peninsula. And again, I realize that's probably wrong. But you can walk up this giant rock, kind of a small mountain called the Great Orme. My kids thought it was funny to walk up and try to maintain upright posture while walking down this big hill. And if you hold the camera a certain way, it looks like you are walking in a really cool way. There was a parking area about halfway up the mountain, and we walked out into a picnic area, had a meal, and here's what the view looks like from there. This is not at the top of the Great Orme, but about a third to halfway up, there was a viewing area. My kids ran up to one of the highest peaks in that area. Lots of mountains have multiple peaks. This wasn't the highest peak, but this was one of them. I stayed down at the picnic area. Here's a picture of yours truly in front of the bay, and that is an inlet on the Atlantic Ocean. Funny enough, one of my kids, after we got home fairly recently, said, "Isn't it weird? We did all this traveling to Europe and we never saw the ocean." And I said, "Hey, remember when we went out on the Llandudno Peninsula and saw the bay?" "Yeah, that was the Atlantic Ocean." Oh, apparently they hadn't picked up on that. They thought it was just a really big lake. We're used to the Great Lakes here in America. There were some pretty flowers in the area where we had our picnic that I really liked seeing. This is me sitting in the rocky area having our picnic. We just brought like ham and cheese sandwiches or something like that. There were a few very curious seagulls that wanted in on the food action nearby. So then you can go down to the base of the mountain and take a tram up to the top, and it's called the Great Orme Tram. This is a funicular, so there are cables built into the ground that actually have counterweights, because while one car is going down, another one's going up, and therefore it doesn't take nearly as much horsepower to pull it. One thing that was cool is there was a group of school children letting out or walking down the street. Public schools wear uniforms there in the United Kingdom, and I just thought that was really nifty, seeing all the kids waving at the funicular as we went by. Here it is coming up the mountain after we got off, but it gives you kind of a clue of what it looks like there. Here it is from the inside. And when you get to the top, there's this building that's kind of like a gift shop. I'm wondering if at one point in history it had a lighthouse or at least like a lookout tower. Unfortunately, they don't let you go up in that second and third floor. They make you stay on the first floor, which was a touch disappointing, but you could still look out the windows from the gift shop eating area. This is what it looked like on the inside. There's an area on the right where you can get treats and ice cream and that kind of stuff. You'll see a lot of people wearing jackets and hoodies, even though this was in the month of July. I think it was July 1st or 2nd, somewhere in that range, because you are up in an elevated area right off the ocean. So you've got a lot of wind, and it's fairly cold. It wasn't like cold, but maybe low to mid 50s, something like that. Here's yours truly. And here's Mrs. Dugroz and I up at the top of the mountain. And then we started riding back down. This is what it looks like on the ride down. Here's my wife looking out the window. There are some like little huts out there. I'm not really sure what those are for. Maybe shepherd's huts or something along those lines. And then at the bottom of the Great Orme, back in the town of Llandudno, there's a pier that sticks out into the ocean. It's one of the oldest privately owned piers in Great Britain. It might be the oldest. One of my boys thought it'd be hilarious to pretend to be seasick there. At the end of the pier, there's a little arcade. So we went in and played skee ball, or that game where you put a coin in and it falls down. You hope you knock off more coins, that kind of stuff. We had to stop at well, you didn't have to, but we chose to stop at a post office to mail a postcard on the way home for my parents. Maybe that was a different day, but for some reason we were going through the town itself. I don't remember why. And we saw some comfortable American signs. We had KFC over here and Subway over here, and we decided, you know what, we've been adventurous. Let's settle in and have some Subway. That was pretty good. Got back to our cabin that night and hit the hot tub. Oh, I should say, one of the reasons why we loved Subway is because we got ice for our cups, and you don't necessarily get ice everywhere. They did have a hot tub at the barn. Here's a picture of me enjoying the hot tub with my glasses kind of getting fogged up. My son using the hot tub, enjoying it there. And then just more views out the back window that we had to enjoy. Oh man, I would go back here in a heartbeat. Just all sorts of awesome things to look at. Had a mom sheep with a baby sheep there. If you drive down into the nearest town, which is called Treffiw, and then there's another town nearby that's something like Llanwrst or Llanwrst. And going into that town, there is a sign that tells you there is a weak bridge up ahead. And we actually thought the name of the bridge was the Weak Bridge, but I later looked it up, and no, it's like the Ponds Point Bridge or something along those lines. It's just telling you that it's a bridge that can't handle all that much weight. It's one lane. It's only for cars. Big trucks aren't supposed to go over it. This is a stock photo. I didn't take this one because you have to stand in a very specific point to get the side of the bridge, but that was kind of fun. We had a few moments where somebody was coming up the other side and they had to back up, or I had to back up, or something like that. We went back to Conwy to tour the castle the next day, and here is the approach to the castle. It's very prominent right there in the town. When we went to Wales the first time around in 2023, we saw a very small castle called Bronte's Castle, but this is the first time any of us had ever been in a big old castle, just kind of your traditional, like, medieval, felt like, Lego knights walking around type castle. There's another view of the approach. When we got to the parking lot, this is interesting. There's one of those machines where you use your credit card to pay for parking. It was mostly senior citizens that day, and boy, they were struggling mightily with that parking machine. There was no one there taking cash. Another view of the castle with my boys, getting up close. A view with yours truly. You actually walk on the city walls part of the way to get to the castle. And then we finally got to the part where you can, you actually enter by going up like a staircase. So you kind of come in on the second floor. Not exactly, but like, that's my memory. That may not be right. And then you kind of look down into it. It looks really cool. You can tell there's like a ruined chapel over here on the right. Debbie in front of one of the towers, and myself on one of the towers. Oh, hey, look, Dugroz here with Dugroz Reports. And the boys up on the top. Mrs. Dugroz, Deborah's, did not love going up in the top of the tower. That wasn't her favorite thing, but she tolerated it. Beautiful weather that day. Nothing to complain about. Oop, got the wrong tab. Beautiful weather that day. Nothing to complain about. You can see the Welsh flag there waving proudly. Love that flag. It's one of the coolest national flags you have. Looking out towards the south, away from the ocean. The castle and the town are right next to the ocean, but this is looking back inland to the south. Doesn't that just look gorgeous? Wow. On the way to the first floor, my son thought it would be kind of funny. There's this sign here that says, "Mind your head." He wasn't minding his head. There is a drawbridge kind of that comes out of one side of the castle. That's not actually part of the castle tour. You have to get that, access that separately. It's not modern. I mean, it is modern. It's not original part of the medieval, but they built it in a style to make it match the castle, which I thought was a good idea. There's also a throne on the first floor near the ramparts where you can take a picture and just feel kind of like you're the king. You can see the inlet there in the background. So to the south is land, to the east is inlet, and to the north, the left of the person taking the picture, is the ocean. After touring the castle, we wanted to get some lunch, so we went to a cafe. I think it was called St. George and the Dragon or something along those lines. I don't remember the exact name. And you could eat inside or outside. We chose to eat in the outside part, which looked like this. And one thing that was interesting is seagulls kept coming. They would try to steal the food. Like if somebody got up from their table and there wasn't someone there to shush them away, once or twice some employees had to come out and do some seagull shushing. The seagulls are way too brave. I had fish and chips. Maybe I didn't. Someone in my party did. We really liked eating fish and chips. My wife had this ham steak that she said was really, really good. And here's another view of the inside of the cafe. We didn't eat on the inside, but you ordered inside and then carried your food out if you so chose. We then walked back towards the castle. You have to go in a separate way to get on that drawbridge. Here's Debbie on the drawbridge. Here's myself on the drawbridge. This is kind of hard to see, so I'll try to zoom in. This is actually, even though the drawbridge is not medieval, I think it was built maybe in the, I call it a drawbridge. It's really like a cable-stayed bridge in the late 1800s maybe. And for a while, they actually did charge tolls for people to cross it. This is a very old, faded sign. It was 1 pence for every person crossing on foot, 2 pence if you have a wheelbarrow, bicycle, or truck. I think truck probably means hand truck in this particular case. I thought that was interesting. On the far side of the bridge was a little path you could go up that was just like a convenience path. People had worn it with their feet, and it went up a little hill, and my son and I went up and thought it would be really awesome. When we get to the end, there's literally nothing there. So this is the look of disappointment on his face when he found out that there's nothing at all at the end of the path. Had to get some family pictures on the way out, and then we went back to the parking lot, and I was just proud to let everybody know I figured out how to use the credit card machine. Unlike those senior citizens. This was the day that we needed to stop and mail a postcard at a post office. It's kind of hard to see, but there's a little red sign there. It says post office. This is different than what I think of as post offices here in the States, in that there's just a private business that serves as a post office. This was sort of like what I think of as like a 7-Eleven or a convenience shop that was just a little stall that sold a few things. And it was also a post office where you could buy stamps and mail things, which we did. What's funny is when I went inside, there was a man, I'm assuming it was a grandpa with his daughter. The daughter was about 8. And they were picking up like an Amazon delivery or something, but they didn't bring their code. And the little girl was the one doing all the arguing. And the grandpa was like, now don't give the man too much lip. And after the cashier was like, well, I can't give you the package unless you have the code, she said, we're not lying, in a very British voice. And that was just really hilarious to me. Kind of some of your traditional little sassy girl from the United Kingdom. I said British, realizing it's in Wales. So maybe it was a Welsh accent speaking English. I'm not really sure. We're back in the town of Trefew now. I may have pronounced that wrong. There is a mill in the town called the Trefew Woolen Mill that's been around for, I think, over 100 years. They actually make their own wool stuff, textiles out of wool there. On the inside, looks kind of like this. I'm going to tell my grandkids if we ever go back, this is where all the string in the world is made. It's all powered by water. So there is a stream with a waterfall in one part of the town. And then they have built these giant pipes that you see, which divert water from there into the mill, which powers all this machinery. Here you can see the water actually rushing in from the diversion channel. More views of the big machinery. There's huge volume of water flowing through these pipes. And they sell stuff kind of like this hat that they made. In hindsight, I kind of wish I'd bought the hat, but it was like 80 pounds, which would be close to $100. And I'm like, I don't know if I want to foot the bill for that. In the town, there's a little parking area next to a bridge and where the creek comes out. It's a pretty pretty big creek. One of my boys sitting there, and you could walk up the hill from the mill to a place called Fairy Falls. And Fairy Falls is an actual waterfall. Now, we weren't sure at first how close you could get. There was a bridge on a path that kept going, but our way back, we noticed there were some stairs. We went down the stairs and found, oh yeah, you can get really close to the waterfall. So looky there. This is like something out of a movie, in my opinion. These were not the biggest waterfalls you've ever seen, not the highest volume, but perhaps just the prettiest and most peaceful waterfall I've ever been to. It also helped that we were the only people there. So had to get some family pictures, of course, and more pictures of the family. Here's yours truly standing by the waterfall. And then at the end, my family was just kind of walking around looking at like snails and rocks and things. And I decided just to sit and look at the waterfall. Now, this looks like a staged picture. I swear it's not. I was just sitting there because I wanted to see it. And my wife happened to snap 2 or 3 pictures. And this one got a lens flare with that rainbow effect. So yes, this looks like it's from the North Wales Tourism Bureau. It's a cool picture. On the way back down from Fairy Falls, kind of walking down the hill, this is what it looks like, just sort of in a neighborhood. There's some gardens and flowers and whatnot. There's this really nifty old church that's been abandoned, although there was a sign out saying that they are going to turn it into like short-term rental apartments in the near future. Back down in the middle of the little town, close to the woolen mill, this is where you can kind of see part of, this isn't the same waterfall we looked at, but just some rapids below the waterfall. And this is where, the creek runs, although it's kind of a man-made channel at that point that takes it through town. We drove back into Llanwrst or Llanwrst, however you pronounce that town. This whole area was in kind of north central Wales, if that helps, and went to a restaurant called Tir Amor in town. And here's what it looked like on the inside, just kind of a little cafe. I don't remember what I ate. Someone in my party had a burger. Actually, my son loves Dr. Pepper, so that was probably his. One of us had fish. I don't know if that was my wife or me. I don't remember what I ate. But we all had, or many of us had French fries. And what was funny is they give you this little tin with your sauces, mayonnaise, ketchup, and something else, probably vinegar. And there were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 ketchup packets. And we all look at each other and like, that's how many I need just for me. Apparently, us Midwesterners from the U.S. use a lot more ketchup than the folks in Wales do. We had to ask for refills of ketchup like twice. It was kind of embarrassing, but it was still a great time. And one of the coolest things was there was a group of young girls, probably between 7 and 12, having a birthday party, and they sang Happy Birthday in Welsh, which was just really fun to us, in a language that I don't understand at all. So it was just super fun to hear that. One thing that was kind of interesting is when we were riding the train from either York to Manchester or Manchester to York, I don't remember which, there was a friendly fellow there who was from the area around York, and he just asked us out of curiosity where we're going when we leave York, and we said, we're going to North Wales, and he said something like this: something to be aware of is that the folks in North Wales, they're not very friendly, and they don't speak English. They speak Gaelic, so you'll just have to be careful. I found that to not be true whatsoever. Every single person I interacted with was very friendly and spoke English just fine, even if they were bilingual and spoke both Welsh and English. Now, the northern part of Wales does have the highest percentage of Welsh speakers, but anybody that I needed to interact with spoke English just fine. Anyone in the service industry, like post office workers, tourism people, the people who drove the funiculars, waitresses, that kind of stuff, they all spoke English just fine. So there was no problems with that whatsoever. And when he said they aren't very friendly, I wonder if he meant not quite as gregarious as the people in North England and us Americans, because there weren't as many people that just walked up to us and started a conversation in North Wales. So maybe they're just a little more private and keep to themselves. but I wouldn't consider that to be unfriendly by any means. Everybody was perfectly friendly. It was a perfectly cromulent experience. Back to the cabin, I decided to go on a little walk up in, I wouldn't say the hills, but just some of the pasture land around it. Not a real big walk, but was able to take a couple pictures of it from a different angle. Baba white sheep there. Then went into the backyard, did some work on my computer, logging our expenses. There was authentic cow's milk in the refrigerator. I don't know if that meant it was unpasteurized or not, but it tasted good, and some sort of little pastry they left for us. So got to have some yummies there while doing my computer work. And there was a sheep out that was particularly close to me who just kept staring at me while I was working on the computer. Another view here, just so lovely. Down here is the town of Trefew, not sure how you pronounce it. I was out walking and a random guy said, well, I guess this was a friendly guy. He struck up a conversation. Trefew is two different Welsh words that basically means hill and town. So basically the name of the town means the town on the hill, which makes sense. Here's just a flower that was growing there close to the cottage. I don't remember if it was the next day or later that same day. I think it was the next day. We went to a lake called Llyn Crefant. Llyn Crefant basically means Crefant Lake. Again, sorry that I don't have my pronunciations quite down pat there. That's what it looks like in terms of the signage. And we just decided to walk around the lake. Now, there was, first of all, gorgeous views. We encountered very few people. The parking lot was, maybe quarter mile, half mile from the lake. So got a little walk in just to get to the lake. Probably the most beautiful lake I've ever seen in my life. And I know I said when we went to the UP of Michigan that there was a lake up in the mountains there that was the most beautiful. This one has it beat, to be honest with you. Here it is on a map if you want to see it. There was like a cafe halfway down we're going to walk to, but unfortunately it was only open certain days of the week, and the day we chose to walk, it was not open. More views of the scenery around this lake. My wife took a picture of her shoes, just kind of walking on the walking path. Lots of little wild flowers. There was a random monument to something on the left here. I don't remember what the monument's for. I apologize. Boys got out on a little rock to take a picture. More scenic views of the lake. And then on the way back, we noticed there was a little teeny tiny bubbly creek there with a bunch of ferns. Here's the family all kind of huddled around the camera while we're out on our walk, just proving that we get along with each other. It's right next to a big hill, and there actually are, you can't really see it in this picture, stone fences people built by hands over however many hundreds of years. We were going to go to supper that night, had a little bit of time. So down in Llanwrst, there is it used to be a bridge you could drive on, at least that's my understanding, but now it's just a pedestrian bridge. It's a suspension bridge. And not scary at all. Just goes over a little creek or waterway. Oops, zoomed in a little too much there. So we walked across that. That's actually where I encountered the guy who told me what the town of Trefew meant. I think you can kind of see the town off to the right there. Yeah, there's part of Trefew, but behind us is Llanwrst. And we drove back to our cabin, cleaned up a little bit. There it is, just another approach shot showing what it looks like. There were these three different mountain peaks in the background, the three peaks of Geshi Nui. And right there in Trefew that night, we ate at a place called the Old Ship. The Old Ship, just good food and real ale. This was a little tavern right there in town. Here's what it looks like on the inside. Very old-fashioned, very traditional, I would say. And this is what the little serving area looks like. It's kind of hard to see, but I'll zoom in here if I can. Up above her, there's a sign that says "Be nice or go away." I thought that was kind of funny. Had a burger there. I don't remember with certainty. It wasn't regular beef. It was either beef mixed with mutton, or it was just plain old lamb burger, lamb meat. I don't remember which one. Stopped at a random pullover driving back to our cottage that night, and it kind of looked like beams coming down from heaven, so that looked cool. I did see at this place where we pulled over, there's little gates that leads into a field with sheep. This ingenious invention, in order to get in, you have to enter the circle, push the gate, which has a bungee cord in it, and then go around. Of course, sheep are too dumb to operate that equipment. Again, I walked up through the pasture, took a couple pictures of Geshi Nui from a different angle. This is the small one bedroom only dwelling on the end called the Bothy or Bati. And walking back, I saw this old gnarled tree stump, which I don't know. In my mind, it just looked like something out of a fairy tale. The old gnarly tree stump of Geshi Nui. Our rental car was a hybrid, so we didn't have to rely on plug-in power, but it was there as an option. One thing that I wanted to be cognizant of in the process was that there was only one charger for all three dwellings. So if somebody else had been there who wanted to use it, and the first night there was a different car parked in that spot, whether or not they were using it, I'm not sure. But I wouldn't rely on having an all-electric vehicle because, like I said, what if all three of you want to use it at the same time? As dusk was approaching, the lights were on in our cabin on our last full night there, and just caught a quick picture. One more picture of the rental car, and there was a map inside the cabin that was really handy. It was called Around and About Geshi Nui. I think probably the people that run it actually had that ordered or produced, and it was a scale of 1 to 16,000, which is actually really detailed. It's like, you know, a mile is like this big, so you have a ton of details. There's the three mountains again. I got all kinds of pictures out the windows in the backyard because it was just, perfect. I'm like almost jealous of myself that I can't be there right now. On the way back, right before we got to the Manchester airport, had to return the rental car, of course. Filled up with gas. It was 30 pounds, 42 pence, and that was 19.51 liters. I did the math, and that comes out to high sevens, almost $8 a gallon. So pretty expensive compared to what we pay here in the States. The type of car was a Citroen, which I later found out was a French car. Never heard of that before, but it worked perfectly fine. No problems. I rented from Enterprise, had no problems with the rental whatsoever, other than when picking it up, had to wait in line quite a while, probably 30 to 45 minutes, something like that. I did stop at a restaurant, well, we all did, the family of four, called the Evergreen Bar and Brasserie inside the Manchester airport. That was a Priority Pass restaurant. And this is what it looks like here at that angle. And here's what we ordered. Oop, got some burgers and stuff. So that was pretty good. And then we're walking to our gate, and we left plenty of time. I mean, we would be getting to our gate like 30 to 40 minutes before departure. And an announcement comes on while we're still a ways away. It said, "This is the final boarding call for KLM flight whatever to Amsterdam. All passengers, please report to the gate immediately." And we're like, oh no, did we misunderstand something? So we're those stupid people in the airport, like jogging to the gate. And we get there, and there's a man and a woman, an older man and a young woman. And we're like, we're here. And they're like, we're fine. We haven't even started boarding yet. And I said, what? We just got the final boarding call. And they said two different things. The older man said, it didn't say final boarding call. And the young woman was like, I'm sorry, that's an automated message. I don't know why it went out. That was kind of annoying because like we didn't even board for like 20 minutes until 20 minutes after that. So we were right all along. Regardless, got a little exercise, got a little sweatier than we wanted to. Here's a picture of the plane. Whether or not that was our plane or just a similar one, I honestly don't remember. But we were flying KLM over to Amsterdam with a layover and then on from Amsterdam to Vienna, Austria. And here's the last picture of the English countryside as we fly across the English Channel to mainland Europe. And that will be part 3. So stay tuned next time for part 3. If you've not yet done so, please subscribe to this channel and click the thumbs up button. See you soon.